Hi, Rolf. Thank you so much for your time. If you're ready, let's start with the first question. What's BCNF Foundation, and please share what you're doing?
Okay, so maybe I have to tell you a bit of story about my life in general to start with to understand the connection. I was living in Bangkok for the until COVID, so I was running a event company, so we were doing like corporate events and training and do some team building events. So we were very much involved in the travel industry as well. So when that stopped during COVID, we came to that little village here in the northeast of Thailand. It's called Banchaniang, BCN Banchaniang.
Yeah.
It's in Isan, northeast of Thailand, and it's a very small village, so we have about 500 people living here. We came here actually only during the vacation. We wanted to go back to Bangkok before COVID, just during that time when COVID started affecting Thailand. So we came here, and then we were caught in the lockdown during the summer vacation of our kids. So that was April, or March we came here. And then it was the lockdown, so we couldn't go anywhere. We couldn't travel.
Yeah.
And we couldn't go back to Bangkok because they said I couldn't go
travel
from one province in Thailand to another. So we couldn't go back. So we started thinking, well, what should we do? I always had in the back of my mind a backup plan in case my business doesn't work out. The event. It turned out quite well until COVID. But then I already realized, well, I have to come up with something new because that could take years. Not only that, but we will lose all our clients. So cancellation came in very quickly. We're canceling our trip, we're canceling our event. And then I knew I was without work, I was without income. So I had to think about something new. So I was thinking of doing a charity. I wanted to do this for a long time because that's kind of like a little bit in the back of my mind. So that charity involves, so what we started with was teaching simple English at the local school because my kids were going into a bilingual school.
Oh, that's a very good idea.
So a private school, they had an English program, so many of their subjects were in English. Their English was very good. It's the third language. The first is Thai, the second is Swiss German, and the third was English. So they did quite well. But when we came to that village here in Surin, there is nothing, no infrastructure. A small school with 3 teachers, 50 students, 1 gardener or maintenance, and that's it. So you can imagine, and those teachers, they were government employees paid by the government. So it's a very simple school, and even 2 or 3 grades had to come together. So my kids had to learn with 1 grade lower than them and 1 grade higher than them. So when I started teaching English here on that school, I already thought, well, the difference between city and countryside is huge, and we have to do something about that. So that was kind of like my motivation because I couldn't send them to any other private school for 2 reasons. Because I didn't have the money, or I was worried that during COVID I have no income, so I didn't want to spend more money. And secondly, I would have to drive 50 kilometers to bring them to school, and I didn't want that. That was not sustainable. So I put them in that school here in the village, and it turned out they're quite happy, more happy than in Bangkok. But of course, some things was lacking. So some of the, especially English, was lacking here. So I thought I'll help them out. I'll teach for free. And so this way, the idea was born about Banchaniang.
Wow.
Charity. So.
And it's about planting trees or species that are in danger, isn't it?
I have to explain that I had 2 ideas. One was helping with the school and educational activities with the kids. That was one idea, and the other idea I thought I'm also interested in trees always before. I just couldn't really do my hobby really well in Bangkok because we had a small house with a very tiny garden. There was no gardening around, so I thought I'll get interested back what I was doing like 10 years ago when I was living in the south of Thailand on an island. So interested in the nature and in planting vegetables and fruits and trees. So I started to think about that. And then I was Googling a little bit and doing some research, and I thought, well, there are lots of trees that are endangered, native trees, so Thai trees that are endangered. Yeah, and that's a big problem.
Wow, that's amazing.
So the idea was born, of endangered trees. That's why we call ourselves endangered trees. We are not actually a foundation. We are more like a community enterprise or a community corporation.
Yeah.
Like we can business with other businesses or with individuals, but we should not make any profit, and we shouldn't be. We should make sure that the community benefits also from our activities.
That's the way to go. That's the way to go. I think so too. Yeah.
Endangered trees, and I started that, and I planted some trees for friends and families, and I sent them some pictures. I had good feedback on social media, and people liked what I did. So I thought, I like it, other people like it, so why don't we try to go? So I went a step further, and I went to some tree planting websites. So like onetreeplanted.org was one of the first one I visited. And I thought I will try to get in touch with them, and I will try to establish some connection. And quite quickly they sent me back an email saying, yes, they would like to open a tree planting project in Thailand. So why don't you be part of us, our project? So I submitted a proposal, they accepted, and then we started planting 8,000 trees for them. Yeah. So 8,000 mostly endangered trees.
Wow, that's amazing. And where just my ideas, because I love entrepreneurs, around the world, and about this climate change and reversing climate change. We need a lot of people like you sharing your idea to the rest of the world, how you did it, and start spreading this, because it's magical when you plant trees, when you have this passion of sustainability. And these kids that you are teaching English, they will see a truly hero in your community. And they will follow you. They will follow these principles. What do you think?
Yes, I think so. I had very good feedback from all different kinds of people.
That's amazing.
People start contacting me through the social media. Also, a lot of Thais now following me on the social media, which never happened, I think, before. People from the area, they're interested. Also, of course, we got a big thank you from the teachers and the school when we finished last year's term. So people appreciate the work that we do. And I wouldn't say heroes or anything like that, but I think people do see that we trying to do something good or just trying to contribute to a better world. I think people realize that.
Well done, Rolf. The second question is about local communities and why they're very important. We kind of say something about communities already, but you are...
I think they become more and more important. I think cities were important up to maybe the year 2000. And from then on, it changed, I think, because nowadays a lot of people can work outside big cities. And even after COVID, it's becoming even more popular that people do work from home. And that means you have the opportunity to live sustainably in a countryside village.
Yeah.
At the same time, not losing touch perhaps with the rest of the world who are living in cities and who make good money. And the problem was always, what do you do if you live in a village? Because you can't really make the same amount of money like you live in a city. But it doesn't have to be. No. You have to live comfortably well. You don't need to spend as much as when you live in a city. You don't need to travel, spend all your...
And you don't have to consume that much, isn't it? Consumism.
Correct. So there is, actually I must say, we are probably one of the least sustainable people in our entire village, because we still have a habit of going to Tesco and buy our groceries. Yeah. So that's a habit we lived for 8 years in Bangkok and before that as well, and it's really hard to change. So everybody else is producing their own food. We produce maybe 50%.
Well, that's a big.
Yeah, because everybody else never goes to a grocery store and buy their groceries. They actually not only rice but also have vegetables, and they eat very little meat because usually the cows are not here for meat production. They are here to invest. If you're selling your rice and you have money left over, you're buying a cow. So that's an investment. So you don't really kill the animals here to eat meat, which is good. So you eat less meat, which is also important then for the whole problematic with global warming and things like that. So.
Yeah, actually, it's a really good idea because if you want to grow your business and let's say you got chickens, but you don't want to eat the meat, only produce the eggs, and then you get proteins out of that. It's like a vegetarian diet, isn't it? Like you drink milk, you eat eggs, and then you expand your animals. That's very good.
Correct. So most of the people around us have chickens. We as well in the back of the house. They lay eggs, but we never really kill the chickens for meat. So yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah.
Some people have pigs, but they usually sell the young pigs and make a little bit extra money with that. But that's it. So
yeah, we got in the backyard guinea pigs and rabbits. We sell them because my son likes to sell and make a profit of it and buy some books or toys, whatever. And what I do is because animals produce the waste and I use it in the garden. I use for fertilizer and composting and things like that. So it's very important for me. I live in the city in Canberra, but I still have my animals.
Yeah. Yes.
Little ones.
Yeah, that's the good thing about also cows. We usually don't need to buy any other organic fertilizer. We can just use cow dung, and that's enough. That's really enough for most of it. Even though trees actually don't need any fertilizer, but on some types of soil, we use a little bit cow dung just to give them another
boost, isn't it?
Boost, yeah, to grow a little bit better. But yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. Well done. Yeah. So we talk about already sustainability, but especially in your foundation, what sustainability means?
Right. I think sustainability is a little bit overrated, perhaps, because it's in the media so often, and lots of companies want to claim they're sustainable.
Yeah, actually, it's a lot of people, they just put sustainable in everything, isn't it? I don't know. I'm not into social media, but I mean, we have to start sharing this thing. It doesn't matter if it's social media or word of mouth. Be sustainable for me is being sustainable with my body and with the community and the planet. That's sustainable. Yeah. Sustainable means that you'll sustain for a period of long time investment to live in this planet, to live in our body. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For me, it's also more a process as well, because I think learning is involved as well, because I mean, if you come from a consumer world where people think about that everything just works around money, you're making your money, you're living a nice life, but you don't really care so much what your money actually does to the environment, and then to changing to a more sustainable way of life, I think there are just steps involved, and you cannot just go from one day to another and live completely sustainable. Some people go much further than we do. They grow 100% of their own food, which I don't think we will probably ever do, because I'm not so, let's say, fanatical about the thing. So I think as long as we are reducing our plastic use, we're reducing every day a little bit, we're trying to improve every day a little bit, I'm quite happy. So
yeah. Well, I'm teaching at the schools how to reduce, but at the same time how to recycle. That's why this entrepreneurs movement is so important for the kids, because we can make factories and recycle plastics, for example. But the fact is that people don't do that because of they don't have the knowledge. Maybe they don't have the habit, but we have to teach people how to do it. Reducing is important, but recycling is super important too, I think.
yes. Can I give you an example about that? I think individuals are always faster than companies. So individuals can change much quicker. Somebody realizes they're living unsustainable, they want to make a change, they can actually do that.
It will take 1 or 2 years, isn't it?
Exactly. It still takes some time, but it's faster than most organizations. Now, let's look at Tesco or like the big supermarket chains. The problem with plastic wrapping and plastic bags, it's been here for 20 years in Thailand. But only really around 2 years or 3 years ago, some 7-Elevens or some Tesco Lotus started to say, we're not giving you free plastic bags.
Yeah.
That's just an important step. It took them 18 years, probably from being the general public was aware, let's say 20 years ago, but it took them 18 years until they would change. So think about that. And then another example is I saw a picture lately from a Thai supermarket. They start selling some vegetables and fruits in banana leaves.
Wow, so that's really good.
Plastic. That's also a good change. I think they changed in the right direction. But again, it's taking them a long time. So we have to be a bit putting pressure on companies.
Yeah, we need to be aware and share this awareness in our schools. And that's how word of mouth is traveling. Yeah. That's really good.
I try to teach them that not to eat so many ice creams, because ice creams as well are usually wrapped in plastic, most of them.
Yeah.
So around here, there's a big problem with plastic. And when I arrived here, plastic was lying everywhere around, because we're living with I just have to say, we're living in the house of my wife's parents, so we have the upper floor for us. So. But we're sharing everything else, including the garden, and there was a lot of plastic waste around. So I started that initiative to have plastic separated into like aluminium, then plastic and paper that we burn usually in the back of the house, and then plastic bottles or cans that we can resell to the consumer, to the recycling shops. So I started that initiative with the kids. So I built those big plastic collecting stations with bamboo, and it was quite a nice project for my kids. And now we use that, so we are much better organized now than we were like when we arrived here. So, but it takes time. Also, I think from our perspective, we have to give time as well to people to change their way of life.
Yeah.
Because parents, until plastic was introduced, they lived very sustainable. I would say probably as sustainable as you can ever live.
I know. And actually, organic food before was at daily basics, and the price was the same, even cheaper. But after Industrial Revolution, with all the pesticides and fertilizers, the chemicals start killing the soil. And organic food now is attacked, and is whatever they can afford, they can buy it. But we shouldn't think about it, Organic foods being for ages in our planet.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Some people still use fertilizer around here. I mean, for rice growing, so it's difficult to change their habits.
Yeah.
But we do have a project now coming up whereby we are funded by another international NGO to produce fruits, like fruit trees, with the entire community. So whoever has a bit of land available to plant a few fruit trees can join.
Yep.
And that is like a cooperative, like an agricultural cooperative. That means it's also based on organic farming or forestry. Agroforestry, you call this, and then we are also together as a community can sell, because if each farmer just produces like a few, even just a few hundred kilos or a few dozen kilos, you cannot sell it anywhere. But if you're going together and you have like 20 or 100 people producing the same kind of amounts, and you can sell it to a reseller or a wholesaler. You can sell it to a wholesaler. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Make extra money.
Yeah. Can I give you one idea that I always thinking, because it's in the back of my mind all the time. You know the avocados, yeah?
Yeah.
The seeds we normally chuck it in a bin, isn't it? Well, not many people, but some people plant it or put it in compost. But there's a lot of companies here, especially in Australia, they just sell the fruit, frozen fruit. But obviously, what they're doing with the seeds, can we get these companies and hold the seeds and send it to your guys, for example, to that NGO, and start reforesting part of Thailand, you know, with only fruit trees?
Yes, possibly. I mean, there are lots of ideas there how we make it better, but I don't know if it would work. So we have to try it out. Yeah. Awesome. I'm also not really experiencing in planting fruit trees, so we just about to start this project. I think soon.
I just remember back in Brisbane. Brisbane is kind of a subtropical weather. It's not as hot as Thailand, but I remember that our seeds from avocado, without planting in the compost pile, they start shooting up. It's so easy. You don't even have to care of it. It will grow a tree. But the thing is, one of our uncles, I'm married to a Burmese lady from Myanmar, so your neighbor country.
Yes.
And they produce the fruit trees. So they plant the seeds when they have 1 year old trees. Normally they fruit within second year. Is because they just put the old one with the new one together, and the grafting, and it's just amazing, so quick.
Yes, most people do grafting because if you grow from seeds, it would take too long to get fruit. So that's why you're grafting most of them.
How do you share your projects and ideas with? It's just locally, isn't it, or social media?
Both, actually. Both. I mean, in the village here, everybody knows us anyway. So we've been living here for nearly 2 years now, 1.5 now. When we, for example, when we're looking for new projects or areas where we want to grow forests, we are going with the village head, the head of the village, to the neighboring villages. So he will introduce us to people who can then give us public land, or find us other farmers on private land where we can grow. So we do this kind of like person to person. Here is everything very kind of personal. So you have to know people, and you can walk into their house if you have anything that you want to tell them or communicate. But not so obviously with the entire world. I mean, of course, you have to use social media for that. And I've just started with Instagram. I've never used before. So it's a new experience for me. But Facebook and LinkedIn I've been using for many years.
Wow, well done. And one thing that is really passionate about it, because I wanted to ask people, what's the most rewarding thing about the job. What about your job? Because it's about being sustainable with your job, with your life and your passion.
Yeah, I think one thing is that if you work for yourself completely, you kind of like can take care of your body a bit better. So let's say you have here an ache or there an ache, especially if you get a bit older. You can put exercise as part of your daily life. For example, I'm doing not more than an hour like planting something because I'm in a hutch like that. So it's not a good position when you do gardening. So I'm not doing this more than an hour at the time, or I'm not usually planting more than 2 hours of trees at the time because it's not good for my body. I feel pain, so I can adjust that. It's not that I have to just do 8 hours of that kind of job. So I can do exercise in between, or go jogging or running, or just walking through the forests or looking for seeds. Sometimes I walk through the forest and looking for seeds or plants or trees that I don't know. So I can do this for half an hour. Maybe that is, I think, the thing that I enjoy the most. The flexibility and that you can live one with nature and yourself. And the second thing, I think, being out in the nature is a great experience, especially if you've been living a long time in a city like me.
I know, reconnect again with nature because we're part of nature. We need to share that.
Yeah. And if that is a big part of your day that you can spend out of nature, so whatever job you're doing, but if you have a chance to spend time in nature, I think that is very rewarding by itself.
Wow, well done. Good job. The next question is, if an investor knock on your door willing to invest $100,000 in your foundation, what will you invest the money? Or how do you invest the money?
100,000 is quite a good amount. I mean, for us, would be quite a big amount. I mean, for 100,000, you could plant around 100,000 to 150,000 trees with that money. So that would be one way of spending it. But in reality, if the investor or the donor, we call them donors, would give me complete freedom how I use it, I would just probably do 2/3 for planting trees and 1/3 I would use for developing our school. So that means I would maybe build another classroom. I would buy some equipment that we need for teaching. Maybe I would hire 1 or 2 teachers for just a duration of 6 months or a year. There are lots of English teachers traveling around Southeast Asia and they're looking for a job here and job there. So I would do that. Especially because 1 or 2 hours a week per class is not enough. So that means I would really like, especially kindergarten age, so age 5 and 6, to give them more hours of English because they're learning so quick and they're learning so naturally. And we have small classes, so it's not that it's a boring kind of like way of teaching. We try to introduce Montessori principles and going out, planting trees with them. So we're doing a lot of activity-based education. So I would probably spend at least 1/3 of the $100,000 for that.
Very good. And I got you here. Okay. One question that is not here, but it's about the foundation called Kiva?
No.
You were talking about donor instead of investor, and I know that a lot of farmers receive money and then they put it back again.
Yeah.
So it's a donor, isn't it? So Kiva?
No, a donor usually gives money without any expectation.
Any expectation. So it's like a gift, isn't it?
That's a donor.
All right. No, because there's something between the donor and the investor, which is not a truly investor, because wherever you give the money, you'll get it back within a year or 2. Yeah. So that's called Kiva. Is I think based in USA, and what they search is entrepreneurs around the world, and they donate money, not donate, but lend them money. It's micro lending, and then they put it back. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, obviously, you could do sustainable tree farming, for example. You could. That's quite a popular way of big investors putting money in. And then you grow trees for them, but when you start harvesting those trees, for example, for a rosewood tree, in 20 years, I can probably sell a rosewood tree for about $1,000, one tree. But it takes its time. So in South America or Central America, you have a lot of those companies who do that. So they take a big money, put them into planting trees, and in 10 or 20 years they harvest them, but then they have to start paying back their loans or dividends, or however you call that.
Right, that's a good idea.
I'm not so interested in that type of work. So I'm more interested in the charity type of work.
Yep.
For example, somebody gives me money to build a school, or somebody says, well, I want to plant 10,000 trees, and I have so much money, can you do it for me? And then I would say yes.
All right.
Mostly, yeah.
Well, that's amazing. Let's find the right person, and then start sharing this awareness, and all the best for you guys. And what about reversing climate change? I believe that it's possible, a little bit slow though, but why trees are so important in reversing climate change?
Well, 40% of the trees is pure carbon, right? So if a tree grows, 40% of the weight of a tree comes from the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Carbon goes through the leaves into the stem of the tree. I think that's not disputed by any scientists, that is a fact. I think what is disputed, though, is where should you grow forests? Is it good to grow forests anywhere, or is it only good to plant forests where you had a forest in the past? So these questions are important, I think, more so than the fact that, yes, they definitely take carbon from the atmosphere, but a lot of other organisms too take carbon from the atmosphere. So, for example, some algae in the
ocean, no?
Ocean, they are more effective than trees.
Kelp, yeah.
To suck up carbon from the atmosphere. But trees have a lot of other benefits. One is so filtering out pesticides and cleaning the soil. So that's one of the major benefits of having trees. So the water from your well or the water in the ground is much cleaner where you have trees around than if you don't.
That's right. Because the soil is a really ecosystem that works with fungi and all kind of microbes, and everything filters the land and the water.
Flooding is the other thing. Big ones. Now in Germany they have a big flood. Well, if they had, let's say, 50% of that area being forest, you would never have a flood, because forests trees can absorb more water than the soil without trees, because the water goes inside the roots and then goes up to the top of the tree, and then little droplets of water will go in the atmosphere again. So if you have a flood would not even be possible in an area where you have a lot of forests, I would say.
Oh, I didn't know that the water travels up. I didn't know that.
Yes,
oh, that's amazing. That's why planting a lot of forests, you gain and reclaim more water, isn't it? More rain.
Yes, but you probably need a lot of trees to make really a difference.
Yeah.
Yes, but where you have big forests, you can say it's more likely to rain than where you have a little forest or nearly no forest. Yeah. But I think you would have to plant probably millions of trees.
Millions of trees.
To make a difference.
So I think China have this huge project, will be the biggest green wall of China. in reforesting the land because apparently the desert is spreading, and they wanted to stop the sun, and it's just reclaiming slowly with the trees.
Yes, and I heard also that they're doing that in Africa. Yeah.
In Africa, yeah.
Good idea, I think. Perfect. Probably even more valuable than what we do here, but you cannot choose where you live. So if people live in that area, I would also focus on
that for us.
To grow forests in order to avoid desertification of the soil.
No. All right, thank you so much. I already finished the questions. If you have any questions or if you want to share with the rest of the world, whoever wanna watch us, I will put a link on the description about your contact details and things. But you can share anything that coming to your mind.
Okay, good. Thank you so much for the interview. Yeah, that was nice to talk to you.
Yeah, nice to meet you, and have a lovely weekend, even though you're working. But it's about passion, and Monday to Sunday for me, I'm the same because I wake up and then I wanted to keep doing things. I don't just relax in bed. I just want to get up, and start doing things because life is too short and it's flying, and then we have to spread the awareness of these beautiful things that we're doing with the rest of the world.
Yeah, that's right. Yes, people who are more active, typically they are more happy and more healthy, except if you're too active.
You're obsessed to the...
No good for your health. So, yeah.
All right, Rolf, thank you so much for your time again. I appreciate.
Okay. All right, thank you so much for
all the best.
Yeah, thanks.
Bye.
All the best. Bye-bye.